Okay, still March 3rd, 2021. Gonna feature something different here because I brought out a lot of my cast iron pans. I still have one coming in from the States from, what is that called? eBay. I don't know. And it still hasn't made it, so I don't. Waiting. It's been like 2.5 months already. I emailed the person. They said, oh, just wait. It's in the mail. It's in the mail, but I think they've lost it. Anyway, we've got some pickled corned beef here that I bought. For what it's worth, right? It's not very much, but that's okay. So I've decided that I am going to cook this in a cast iron pot, right? And then after it's cooked for a while, and I'm going to fry cabbage with onions, right? And have mashed potatoes with it. Doesn't that sound good, people? So we're going to feature this little cast iron. Now the thing about cast irons, especially if you put tomatoes in them, they leach iron into the food, which puts it into your diet, which is good for your body. So keep that in mind. Okay, people. Do you see something? Andre says, Nana, there's something living in your car. He's old Betsy. I don't know, people. I am thinking to sell her. Look at this. Oh my God. How did that come off? You know how expensive these things are to buy? So expensive. Fix that. Look. Goes Nana. Something's living in your car.
Oh, it's Willie's dad.
Look at that big fluffy cat.
Oh, that's how he got in. Oh, he went out to there. Oh, goodness, just down there.
Okay, people. Do you see something? Andre says, Nana, there's something living in your car. He's old Betsy. I don't know, people. I am thinking to sell her. Look at this. Oh my God. How did that come off? You know how expensive these things are to buy? So expensive. Fix that. Look. Goes Nana. Something's living in your car.
Oh, it's Willie's dad.
Look at that big fluffy cat.
Oh, that's how he got in. Oh, he went out to there. Oh, goodness, just down there.
Okay, so it is now March 4th, 2021. You can see what's going on here, people. Now, I didn't catch it in terms of when it came in. But, you know, it's important that we stay on top of this. Okay? So, before I turn this on and go through it a little bit and make comment on it, I want to read this. Okay? I want to read this stuff. Okay? All of it. Right? Maybe what I'll do is I'll put this on myself as I'm reading. How about that? What's going on? Let's take a good look at my eyes. I'm getting a lot of lighting, right? Anyway, hold on. We'll do that another day. We'll try that another day just for fun. But for now, let me read this. Let's see if I can read this, okay? You just listen. All right, this I'm just copying and pasting, right? As I'm reading people's comments and stuff, okay? In various videos, whether on BitChute, okay? I highly recommend that you cruise through BitChute every now and then. That's a website that uploads videos, right? Because you come across some good videos that you wouldn't normally see on YouTube. I don't know if you can provide a link to a BitChute video in the comments section in YouTube, right? Without it being removed because of the shadow banning and the censoring that goes on YouTube, as if. But, you know, for what it's worth, I highly recommend that you take some time and go to, you don't have to become a subscriber to BitChute. You can just Google BitChute, go in and go into all and just kind of go down the videos and find things that you might be interested in looking at, and you'd be surprised what you might come across. So every now and then I do read comments, other people comments, whether on YouTube or whether on BitChute or wherever I may go. And this just happens to be something that I came across, and I'm going to read it right now in regards to masks. Okay, and this was written by a Dr. Margarite Griesz-Brisson MD, PhD, is a consultant, just bear with me, people, is a consultant neurologist and neurophysiologist with a PhD in pharmacology with special interest in neurotoxicology, environmental medicine, neuroregeneration, and neuroplasticity. This is what she has to say about face masks and their effects on the brain. I wouldn't say I get into arguments with Tisha, but it's, you know, with her age, she's 22 now, something like that, and just being so impressionable, right, and, you know, internalizing this fear of what our governments are doing, and knowing what she knows in terms of what we've been through with our own family, and how the injustice wraps itself around the public union sector time after time after time in their negligence to provide good services to the public, because they don't serve the public first. They serve their union and their self-interests first. Anyway, she's, you know, I tell her, like, you know, she'll come and I'm a little AMA would be in a mask, and I'm like, oh my God, why you got a mask on, a AMA? Oh, she really wanted to wear one, and she was already crying, carrying on, and I just let her have her own way. And I'm like, no, Tisha, you can't do that, because in these fabrics, there's formaldehydes. Anything that you buy off the shelves, people, have been sprayed with preservatives, namely formaldehyde, the stuff that they use to embalm bodies with, okay, and other preservatives, not to mention the fibers within these masks, whether they're, you know, a polyester or a cotton, or, you know, whatever it is that they use to make these masks. They're releasing fibers, not to mention they're coming in with their preservatives, okay? These throwaway masks, you can't wash off the preservative. As soon as you put those little masks on that are the throwaway kind, you immediately begin to breathe in formaldehydes and other preservatives. It's a given, okay? It's done through the FDA and their guidelines to make sure that bugs aren't coming into the country, or bacteria or other pathogens as these things are coming in on the fucking containers from wherever they were manufactured in. Okay? Do you understand what I'm saying? You can't avoid it. If you buy the cotton masks and you wash them first before you use them, like you should always wash clothes before new clothes that you buy in a clothing store. You should always wash them first before you put them on, because it's a given, it's a guarantee. They have formaldehyde and other preservatives in the fabric to preserve the fabric and to prevent bug infestations and all this, and disease and bacterias and fungus and molds. It's to prevent all of that from happening and coming into a country, because oftentimes this stuff is being imported in, right? And I tell Tisha, if you buy a pair of socks at the dollar store or you buy something else somewhere else, you have to wash them first before you put them on your body. Well, the same thing applies with these masks, okay? So anyway, so there was just like the other day, we got a little bit into an argument, right? And she had her mask on, right? And I'm trying to tell her, you're depriving your brain of oxygen, okay? It only takes 4 to 6 minutes, no longer than 6 minutes, people, for the body to die once the brain is dead. You cannot revive it back. Oh, sure, they can haul off a dead body to the hospital and they can make it look alive after they've pillaged it to cover their tracks. We know that. We've been through that with Chimay, right? But at the end of the day, after 6 minutes, that's it. You're toast. You're toast. If for some reason they can get your body to work correctly with that homeostasis status, which actually, once your brain dies, you don't have it anymore, people. It's gone. That's why bodies go into decomposition. There's nothing left up there, okay? And brains die due to lack of oxygen. It's a given. It's a fact. You can't avoid it, okay? And I tell Tisha this. You're depriving your brain of oxygen. And not only are you depriving your brain of oxygen, but you're also bringing in foreign fibers from the fabrics that you're using, regardless of what the fabric is. And if it's a throwaway mask, you're guaranteed to be breathing in all kinds of preservatives, and formaldehyde is one of them, right? So that's like a double whammy. And then you've got the bacteria from your own mouth breathing into the mask. You're breathing it back in and out, in and out. Moisture spreads, water spreads germs, people. Water is the conductor to breed bacteria and germs. Water is the conductor that spreads bacteria and germs. They've already had, and I told this to Tish too, they've already had, well, I know of one child, but I'm sure there's been more children that have died from wearing masks. Okay? And of course, we're so dispersed, and we're not getting the real news from our news outlets in terms of what's funded by the government, right? Rob Peter to pay Paul, right? The government robs the general population of their tax dollars to pay the media to cover the tracks of the criminals, right? They're not reporting on the number of people that are coming down with severe lung infections because of breathing in their own spittle. That's has a chance to multiply in the fabric, whatever that fabric may be, and then go back into the lungs. Okay? But, people are just, there's something wrong with society. There really is. Because they just don't want to stand up, people. I don't know what they're afraid of. I don't know why they think that they're going to get an extra fucking year out of this in terms of being alive, right? But sometimes the quality of living is more important compared to how long you can actually live, right? Right now, we have no quality of living. And we're infecting ourselves with low oxygen to the brain, which is killing brain cells, people. It's literally killing brain cells. You just don't know it because it's that boiling frog effect. You haven't really noticed it. You just know that you're maybe a little more sleepy or drowsy, or maybe you're getting a bit of brain fog, but it must be because you're under stress because you lost your job, or you're being forced to take something that you don't want, which gives you a headache, but you're still wearing the mask, not realizing that the mask is adding to that problem, right? Because you've got somebody that's purposely lying and misguiding and providing misinformation to the general public for a political agenda that obviously props up big pharma on the cheap to manufacture an analog that, if you look at fentanyl and you look what it does to those people, how it begins to shut down their organs one by one, how it affects their blood, what it does to the brain over a long period of time in terms of permanent brain damage. Okay? And then death. Right? Well, everybody justifies it because they want to blame the victims to that analog that's being pumped out for a profit by the very type of people that are now bringing it to the whole population with an analog that's clearly experimental. I'm showing you this through these videos with a lot of fucking lip service, and because they're in positions of power and nobody's challenging them per se in terms of numbers. Oh, you get one here and a small group over there and one or two over there, but nothing of substance, nothing to make these people stand back and say, whoa, maybe we need to take and pay attention to what they're saying versus, they're just building in more barriers, people, with lies and misinformation, as they're killing people's brain cells in more than one way. Okay? So let me continue reading this. I don't know how long this video is. I'm working in the basement today. This is my little downtime. I come upstairs, I turn on my computer, and who do I see? Dr. God, a.k.a. Saint Bonnie, spewing out, well, we know everybody wants to see their loved ones in the old folks' homes and in the hospitals and everywhere else that we've got them tucked away like a dirty secret. But, we're still working on our studies and we can't really say when the time will come, but it should be soon. And at the end of the fucking sentence, after she's done talking about that subject, she makes sure that everybody knows that it's going to take a fucking year. I'm going to show you this. Okay? As she's killing people's brain cells by ordering, right? Dr. God is ordering people to kill their brain cells and to turn one against the other as if a mask is going to prevent people from really getting sick. If anything, the mask is going to make people get sick, and then when they go to the hospital, find out that they have a lung infection or blood infection or whatever fucking infection they got from their masks. They're not going to put it down as, oh, well, it came from the mask. No, they're going to write it down as a COVID because it suits their political agenda, people. It brings funding into the corrupt healthcare system. It provides the data, the statistics for the corrupt government to keep pushing the envelope on the people to take 5.1 million junkie shots. Because it's not going to start and stop with one. This is an analog. It's cheap to manufacture. That's the whole point. The test run in the community was with the fentanyl. And now that they've got that on fucking lockdown and they know what they're doing, they're going for the big bull. Okay? They've taken it to the big arena now. And they're using their positions of power to abuse the general public without the general public having the balls to stand back and fight, stand up and fight for their rights. Because they're
getting brain. They can't breathe, people. Half the time you can't fucking hear what they're saying. Can you even hear what I'm saying?
Did you even hear what I said? Okay. Let me read this. The reinhalation. To reinhale. What you just breathed out, right? Of our exhale air will, without a doubt, create oxygen deficiency and a flooding of carbon dioxide. We breathe out carbon dioxide, which plants love. That's why it's so important to have trees, because they need what we breathe out. Well, plants, trees and all that, they breathe out oxygen, what we need to breathe. Okay? We're a symbiotic. Plants and humans and animals, we are symbiotic, right? We live together as one, because without one, the other one will die, right? It's just like Fraser Health Authority with CIBC Bank. One couldn't do what the other one did unless they did it together. Well, it's the same thing with plants, human beings, and animals. If there was no plants on the fucking planet, we would all die, because there's no oxygen for us to breathe. If there is no humans, no animals, no nothing, the plants would all die, because they're not getting the oxygen that they need. Carbon dioxide. They're not getting the carbon dioxide that they need in order to be able to survive. Whereas some symbiotic. Symbiotic means you attach itself to something and that's how you survive, right? Everybody knows that has any sense of a little bit of science, okay? I mean, that's one of the first things that you learn as you grow up. Exhale air will, without a doubt, create oxygen deficiency and a flooding of carbon dioxide, because you're breathing out and breathing it out, and you're breathing it in as quickly as you're breathing it out, because it can't disperse, okay? And you can't draw on the oxygen around you as easily, right, with a mask on, because you're too busy breathing in what you've already breathed out, right? We know that the human brain is very sensitive to oxygen deprivation. All we have to do is think about Chimay, right? There are nerve cells, for example, in the hippocampus, okay? There's a little gland somewhere in here that can't be longer than 3 minutes without oxygen. They cannot survive. And within 6 minutes, the brain is completely dead. Chimay was dead for an hour, people, before Wolf was called. Okay? The person who called Wolf was hoping that Tisha would have wandered in on Chimay and found her laying on the couch after her body had been staged that way. Right? So that it looked innocent, but because Tisha didn't wander in and stumble upon her sister, because she thought her sister had laid her own body down to go to sleep, when in fact that's not what happened. Somebody else laid down her body and staged her body, waiting for Tisha to show up, but because Tisha didn't show up after an hour of Chimay being basically dead, that's when rigor mortis starts to set in within the second hour, right? Within the second hour, you're going into the second hour, that's when you start to stiffen up, okay? Right? And of course your blood, because you're dead, is pooling to the lower part of wherever you're laying. That's why Wolf was called. Because if that individual would have left it for one more hour, and then Tisha came out and stumbled upon Chimay, after 2 hours of being dead, the signs of rigor mortis being stiff with the blood pooling underneath her would have been clear to see, which would have been easy for these crooked fucking cops, crooked ambulance attendants to say, oh, well, yeah, definitely, she's dead. There's nothing we can do about it because, look, she's already in rigor mortis, which puts her death at about 2 hours ago. And then they would be able also to test her ambient temperature, right? I'm using Chimay as an example to show you how quick a person can die due to lack of oxygen. Okay? There are nerve cells, for example, in the hippocampus, which is a little gland or something like that, somewhere in your brain back in here, that can't be longer than 3 minutes without oxygen. They cannot survive. The acute warning symptoms are headaches, drowsiness, dizziness, issue in concentration, slowdown of reaction time, reactions of the cognitive system. People aren't thinking clearly. Oh, but they're just depressed, right? They're just suffering from anxiety, right? You know, they're having panic attacks because of what our governments are doing to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, to millions of people across this province, as they're all being basically forced to wear masks, right? So before the government will take responsibility for anything, what? They're not even going to take responsibility for the masks, even though this information is out here. They just want the results, people. And you heard what the results are. However, when you have chronic oxygen deprivation, and that's another thing. Tisha is pregnant, and I tell her, look, you're pregnant. Don't you be wearing this mask all the time. You're depriving your baby of oxygen, not to mention your own freaking brain here, right? Oh, but it's just a mask. It's okay. You know, and I'm like, oh my God, they got to you. They've completely brainwashed you into thinking that it's okay when it's not. However, when you have chronic oxygen deprivation, all of those symptoms disappear because you get used to it, okay? It's like anything with the body, right? It's like somebody addicted to fentanyl, right? A little dose at first is great, you know, they're fine. They do that for a while, then they need a little more because their body's getting used to it. Then they need a little more. Then they need a little more. Soon they're doing a whole big bag full just to get the same effect from when they first started out because the body got used to it, right? It's the same thing that's going to happen with this new and improved mRNA analog that they're introducing to the mainstream public, right? We'll start you off with just a little bit, right? You know, and then we're going to give you a little bit more, and then we're going to give you a little bit more after that, and before you know it, you're going to have a whole fucking nation of junkies all waiting for their next fix, people, and they're going to expect to get it. Because that's what happens, not only psychologically, but physiologically with these analogs. As your brain is probably still going to be deprived of oxygen, as your Lord, your God, is ordering you to continue wearing it, and in some instances they're trying to tell you to double mask, triple mask. Like, how can you even breathe? But you see, that's the point. They want you to have brain fog. They want parts of your brain to die. Right? They want it, because if they didn't want it, they wouldn't be fucking asking for this shit, people. Just like they wanted Sierra out in the streets, taking care of all the bad boys, right? So, you know, all the good girls in the houses weren't going to have to worry about being raped, because my daughter was being raped, right? She was the sacrificial lamb to protect the public, right? That's why those women never get no real fucking help out there. Okay? That's why we find them up in the ravine or hanging in trees or behind door fucking frames that nobody can identify with their eyes gouged out. Okay? Only Only the cops get to see that kind of stuff. I wonder why. I wonder why. We know that neurodegenerative disease takes years to decades to develop. If today you forget your phone number, the breakdown in your brain would have already started 20 to 30 years ago. Okay? So, if you don't know, the brain, on average, from the moment you're born until about age 25, continues to grow and develop in terms of intelligence, your ability to learn new skills quickly, the whole 9 yards. After the age of 25, your brain stops kind of growing, right? And then it just kind of goes about its business. And then once you hit to another age, milestone, it starts to deteriorate. But usually after the age of 25, I guess you can kind of say you stop growing with your brain. And then from that point forward, anything that you do with your brain, if you haven't done it already to interrupt that learning process and that growing process, you're going to start to deteriorate slowly but surely. While you're thinking that you have gotten used to wearing your mask and rebreathing your own exhale air, which is carbon dioxide, something which is extremely poisonous for human beings, but plants need it in order to live. Without carbon dioxide, we'd have no plants on the planet, okay? The degenerative process in your brain are getting amplified as your oxygen deprivation continues. Okay, so it's like compounding. It's just getting worse and worse and worse. Your brain has little paths, right? All these little paths that go through, you get a rut, right? That's how you learn, right? That's how people develop addictions. They get into these, habits, okay, whatever. That's how the brain reinforces information, right? It keeps going over the same little, from this point to this point. It just keeps making that groove so that, you know how to spell the word stop, right? As you don't even have to think about it. It's already there. Well, it's the same thing. It's the same kind of stuff with this stuff. Same thing. You teaching your brain to go without oxygen as you're killing off certain parts of it. That's what you're doing. And Dr. God and affiliates, they know this, people. Okay? They know this. The second problem is that the nerve cells in your brain are unable to divide themselves normally because you've interrupted that process. So, in case our government will generously allow as to get rid of the mask and to go back to breathing oxygen freely again in a few months, the lost nerve cells will no longer be regenerated. What is gone is gone. Okay? Point blank, period. Now, mind you, we got billions and billions of brain cells from the time we're born, right? And our brains are growing up until age 25 in terms of developing and just, right, coming into an adult brain, okay? But if you destroy those, you see, that's the thing. That's why they like to target 11, 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old kids with methamphetamine and that kind of stuff, because the brain is developing, and once they get those kids hooked on drugs for life, which is what happens at that age, people, it becomes a billion-dollar industry within the underground economy, right? And that's why those people who became addicts at a very young age are, in essence, like children when they become adults, because they've been emotionally stunted through the damage that was created through the drugs being introduced into the brain as it was developing at a very early age. These people, they know this. But they continue to do it anyway. They don't do anything to stop kids from getting drugs out here, people. Nothing. I do not wear a mask. I need my brain to think. That's what I tell. Andre, he came to me and he went in my room and he got some noodles the other day, right? And he says, Nana, I noticed your beer is still in there. When are you going to have a beer? Right? My birthday beer from 2 years ago. Right? And I'm like, well, Nana likes her brain. That's the thing. I like my brain, people. Right? If I have one beer, I'm not satisfied to have one beer. One beer will get me a little tipsy, but because I don't drink very much and I actually do like beer, I'll want to drink the second beer, but the second beer will kind of make me drunk. And then, of course, I get sleepy, want to go to sleep, and then the next day I'm kind of burnt out and I'm worn out. And, you're right? Because of the alcohol, it's dehydrating on your body and stuff. And so, I just look at my beer because I like my brain, people. Right? So, what is the difference between drinking a case of beer once a day or wearing a mask once a day? At the end of the day, it's going to deplete your brain cells either or. It doesn't matter which one you choose to do, right? I want to have a clear head. Exactly. That's why I don't drink my beer, because I like having a clear head, right? When I deal with my patients and not be in a carbon dioxide induced anesthesia. Because that's kind of what you're doing. You're freezing your brain into numbness that will just eventually kind of stay that way in terms of dumbing you down. If not, create other serious health problems depending on what part of the brain actually gets damaged permanently. There is no unfounded medical exemption from face masks because oxygen deprivation is dangerous for every single brain. It must be the free decision of every human being whether they want to wear a mask that is absolutely ineffective to protect themselves from a virus. We're not going to get into that right now, but, right, viruses live on things, doorknobs, they float around in the air, right? They're all over the place. That's just a fact of life, okay? Wearing a mask over your face isn't going to protect you from getting a virus because you can simply get on an escalator, put your hand on the escalator, and then get off the escalator. I'm just using this as an example. And then go touch your mask and put it back up because it keeps falling off your face. Introduce all that bacteria into your mask as you're breathing into it and making it moist and then breathing it back into your lungs. And then, of course, you get a lung infection. Then you go to the doctor, and because half our doctors are crooked in this fucking province, they must be getting freaking bonuses by designating things as COVID. I mean, look how crooked my doctor is. Look what happened to me, people. I didn't do anything wrong. I just simply wanted my daughter's medical files. And I don't have a family doctor anymore after all these years. Right? And I phoned up another clinic. There's one doctor in there that can take family, take family patients, but they're full because the government's capped them off. They're only allowed so many patients within their profile. All the other doctors, they're not taking no patients because out of 7 doctors, only 1 doctor is a family doctor and they can't take no more patients because the government said so. So for all I fucking know, maybe my doctor did what my doctor did to me and my family because he wanted to kick us off the grid so he could go be a family doctor to somebody else that makes them more money by writing out fucking OxyContin prescriptions. Because if he writes out an OxyContin prescription, he gets money on that. He don't make no money off of me for fucking drugs. Just like I won't drink a fucking beer, I don't go in there asking to give me drugs for pain, people. But there are lots of people out there that would want him to be the family doctor because he's that kind of doctor that can do that kind of stuff. So he had to get rid of me in order to fill in somebody else to take my place that can make him more money through prescriptions. And now I'm walking around like a nomad in no man's land. Right? As you have to book an appointment one day out of the week to be able to go see a doctor for any fucking reason. In this other clinic, that is. Or be forced to go back to the other clinic, the one that fucking ostracized me and treats me like I'm a freaking criminal for standing up for my dead daughters. Okay? Just so that the doctors there in that clinic can make more money for their boss. For children and adolescents, masks are an absolute no-no. This is what I tell Tisha. I don't care if she's crying to wear one. She's too little. Children and adolescents, it's only on for a little while. It doesn't matter. Okay? If God wanted you to have fucking something over your mouth where you can't breathe, then he would have made you a fish with fucking something inside with gills and all this other shit. He made you a human being with a mouth. Breathing out carbon dioxide to feed the plants while the plants feed you with the oxygen. Children and adolescents have an extremely active and adaptive immune system, and they need a constant interaction with the microborn of the earth. And this is true. They tell you, don't worry about children making mud pies, right? Children should be exposed to animals when they're little. Just like, they should have a little bit of peanut butter when they're little, right? To get their immune system built up so that when they're adults, they don't develop peanut allergies. Right? Or have allergic reactions to animal fur, right? Or go outside and walk on the grass and all of a sudden they can't breathe shit because mom and dad had them locked up in a house, never coming into contact with anything. Their brains is also incredibly active because it's growing, people. It's still developing. It's changing at a very high speed. Right up until age 25, okay? As it has so much to learn, right? The child's brain or the youth's brain is thirsting for oxygen because it's still growing, people. And you see, that's the thing. Shemaine, she was 22 going on 23 when she died? And she was like of high IQ, equal to Albert Einstein, okay? The only reason she didn't do as well in school, in part, was because of the public union sector not nurturing a gifted child and wanted to coerce her into freaking tourism versus having her be a registered nurse that would do a really good job. But outside of that, she would have been a whistleblower and, you'd be surprised how much the public union sector works on a whole different fucking agenda than what they say they do when it comes to representing the public. Shemaine would have been a threat to their bottom dollar line in today's terms. Right? She wouldn't have stayed quiet. She would have said something. I'm going to read something else to you and show you. I'm just going to read all this crap, and then I'm going to provide a link to a video that's still up on YouTube, which I'm quite surprised, and I highly recommend that you go listen to it. And then maybe I'll start another video on that Dr. God, just to confirm how that binary individual is just toying with 5.1 million people. Literally, just toying. Okay? The more metabolically active the organ is, that's the brain, right? Or any other organ, for that matter, the more oxygen is required. In children and adolescents, every organ, okay, is metabolically active because they're growing, people. Right? To deprive a child or an adolescent's brain from oxygen or to restrict it in any way is not only dangerous to their health. Remember that hippocampus, okay? It's in the brain, somewhere in there. 3 minutes, lack of oxygen, it starts to die. Okay, it's starting to shrivel up, people. It's just, it looks like a little peanut or something somewhere in your brain. And it starts to shrivel up, okay? That's what's happening. Is not only dangerous to their health, it is absolutely criminal. Oxygen deficiency inhibits the development of the brain. What happened to Amari, people? His brain was injured due to lack of oxygen. Shimei went to the hospital. They gave her morphine and told her to go away because she was in labor pains, right? She went home. Next day, she didn't go. Then she went back the third day, okay? She went up. So first day she went, okay? They gave her morphine. They said, "Oh, you're fine. Go home." Then the second day, I don't think she went. And then the third day, she came up. She said, Mom. I'm like, go back to the hospital, Shimei. You need to go back to the hospital, okay? And tell them what you're feeling, right? So she does that. And they send her away again, people, with more morphine. So she goes back the fourth day. Finally, they keep her. And by the fifth day, Amari was born after her being in hard labor for X amount of 10 hours, or whatever the hell it was, with his heartbeat going down and not coming up. Okay, you do the fucking math here, people, right? And then they rush her in for an emergency C-section, and he comes out like this, and they're laughing as they're wiping him up. And then they come back 3 hours later and start accusing her of doing fucking drugs because of the opiates that they were in her system because of their C-section, people. And now it's, you can't do nothing about it because we didn't do an MRI at the time of his birth to document brain injury. These people are thoroughly freaking crooked. He got brain injury because of all that, due to lack of oxygen. Well, it's the same is true for other people, okay? This is simple, indisputable physiology. Consciously and purposely induced oxygen deficiency is an absolute deliberate health hazard and an absolute medical contradiction. An absolute medical contradiction in medicine means that this drug, this therapy, this method or measure should not be used and is not allowed to be used to coerce an entire population to use an absolute medical contradiction by force. There must be definite and serious reasons for this, and the reasons must be presented to competent interdisciplinary and independent bodies to be verified and authorized, people. And this is what I'm trying to tell you. There are no fact checks. There are no independent audits, medical audits into pharmacare fraud, okay? Overbilling and that type of fraud. There is no independent autopsies. No bodies being exhumed and being independently autopsied on by ethical and moral freaking doctors, okay? Not somebody who's working for the government and waiting for their fucking paycheck and their pension plan to come through because they're covering for the government, okay? When in 10 years, okay? Because you remember that little hippocampus is slowly but surely shriveling it up and dying, not to mention other parts of the brain and your other organs, okay? because it all comes from the brain, all right? Dementia is going to increase exponentially. Well, that's kind of a given because of the baby boomers coming in for the next 15 years, okay? And the younger generation couldn't reach their God-given potential. It won't help to say we didn't need the masks. In other words, this is going to make it worse with what we've already got coming here, people, because we're developing permanent brain damage on some level with millions of people at one time, including children. How can a veterinarian, a software distributor, a businessman, an electrical car manufacturer, a physicist, and a physicist decide on matters regarding the health of the entire population? In other words, all these politicians, well, a lot of them are lawyers, but, some of them are teachers, some of them, have their own business, right? Some of them maybe work for a software company, and right? I think this is what this individual is saying here. You got a modge podge of politicians, and your average whatever in positions of power saying, no, well, this is it. We're going to base it on, as Dr. God would say, world science, real world theory, or real world data. Please, dear colleagues, we all have to wake up. I know how damaging oxygen deprivation is for the brain. So do I. I've had loved ones destroyed because of it, aka Sierra, and other loved one, and Uncle John, aka Uncle John, right? With the oxy content, they deprived his brain of oxygen, okay? And then, of course, depriving Shmei's brain of oxygen through fentanyl killed her, right? Cardiologists know how damaging it is for the heart. See, I told you, it goes into other organs, right? The pulmonary list, pulmonologists know how damaging it is for the lungs, right? It's not just the brain, okay? Oxygen deprivation damages every single organ. That's why they like to take out organs from dead bodies within the first 15 to 18 hours after death. The sooner, they better. They got Shmei at 7 hours, okay? Sierra, they got her a little sooner because that coroner rushed out through the back door with Sierra's body in her trunk, literally, okay? I don't care what anybody's going to have to say about that one. I was there. I have it on fucking camera, okay? That body dude guy, when he came out, he didn't have no body bag in his hand, and he sure in the hell wasn't interested in rushing back in to load up Sierra's body right into the body bag. And the cop just wanted to know if he got the stuff, okay? Right? Well, that guy is looking into the cell phone, obviously grinning to himself, and when he got down to the bottom of the stairs, he turned around, he faced the fucking street, he started doing his little hand signals with a big grin on his face. As if, I got it, don't worry. Yeah, okay. I got it too, baby. I got it too. Where are our health departments, our health insurance, our medical associations? It would have been their duty to be vehemently against the lockdown and to stop it from the very beginning. It's because they've been bought off. They've been bought off, or they've been replaced with something that looks like them, or they themselves have been injected with something before what's happening right now that has altered them through some CRISPR technology like China's trying to do with their super soldiers, okay? There's only so many reasons why these individuals are going to act this way. Okay? Why do the medical boards issue punishment to doctors who give people exemptions? Does the person or the doctor seriously have to prove that oxygen deprivation harms people? Right? You're guilty until proven innocent. It's your job to become that lawyer. It's your job to become that biochemist. It's your job now to become a fucking scientist and a freaking guru when it comes to chemistry and all this other shit in order to fight corrupt governments with corrupt government employees in order for you to be able to have peace and liberty in your own freaking country? Does the person or the doctor seriously have to prove that the oxygen deprivation harms people? Why does it become my responsibility to prove to my government that I have a right not to do these things based on what the science says, common sense says, what I've been taught ever since I've been little, right? And I certainly don't have no political agenda to back up anything I've got to say other than it's common sense and I like to breathe. And I think people around me should have that right to breathe and not have their brain cells killed off in any manner for profit. For profit, people. The only people who are making profit off this shit is the government and their employees to prop up their pension plans and their wages and everything else that they get benefit packages around. Okay? What kind of medicine are our doctors and medical associations representing? Who is responsible for this crime? Who is responsible for it? Well, obviously it's the government, but it's the kind of like goes back to with Amari. They had Shimei in 5 days of labor. Enough so that they gave her morphine on 2 separate fucking days and sent her home. And then when they did finally get her, they fucking dragged her labor for 12 hours to the point where the heartbeat just didn't come up anymore on Amari's part. And then they decided to do an emergency C-section. They knew they fucked up and they refused to do the MRI, tried to shift the blame on Shimei. And they got away with it, people. They got away with it. Because our healthcare system is corrupt. Birds of a feather flock together. It's not even much more different than what they did to Uncle John. They destroyed his brain too. Only in his case, they used oxycodone, right? And isolation. And humiliation. They humiliated him for wanting to see the kids, wanting to come back home, be with us, right? Right? They kept him drugged so that his brain was cloudy and, right? They fed him fucking lies, right? Right? They made him sleep for long periods of time, right? So, they made it so he couldn't get up and walk around and, he had bad legs and bad back. He needed to walk. That was the one thing that made him feel the best, but they made sure that didn't happen. They kept him in a diaper to publicly humiliate him, not only to himself, but everybody else around him, right? Right? They did everything to him what he didn't want done. And that's why he forfeited on his superannuation life insurance policy, because he didn't want that shit done to him. Because he'd already seen his family do it to Joan's mother and other people in his family that had worked for the government and had, that kind of shit where money could be stolen. And that's why he just thought he would take away the temptation. He just never thought that his family would lie to him, bold-faced lie to him, and not tell him that his wife, who had died 14 months prior to them finally telling him, after being medically kidnapped, illegally drugged, illegally detained, illegally transported, illegally put into isolation where nobody could see him. That's when they told him that he inherited money. But by that time, his brain was jello. His brain was jello. He couldn't fight back. They wouldn't let him talk to Paul, the lawyer, right? Paul called a few times. They didn't even tell John that Paul called. That's why they took him out of there as fast as they did, because John told me to go get Paul. I went to go get Paul. I came back to tell John that I'm making contact with Paul, and John was gone because they were spying on us, which is illegal under their freaking rules and regulations, something that the judge ignored and then said, take it to the cops, as if. And now you've got that whole scenario playing out right across the whole province against tens of thousands, 83,000 old people right off the freaking top are in the same position Uncle John was in. 83,000. They got away with it with Uncle John, and because they got away with it with Uncle John, now they're doing it with 83,000. 70,000 sitting up in care homes right across this province in terms of old folks' homes, and another 13,000 sitting up in assisted living homes where none of them can see their family members in a timely manner. And if they get up into the hospitals, you might as well kiss them goodbye. See, Levy, was there even anybody that was related to you when it comes to that? Like, was Uncle John even a part of our family? They don't care, people. These people that do this shit, they don't fucking care. So if they don't care about that, why would they care if they're killing your brain cells when you're wearing a fucking mask? They don't. What it does is it dumbs you down, right? And it gets you weakened, right? In terms of thinking, just the whole 9 yards, right? All of a sudden you're starting to have heart problems, right? You don't know why. You don't know it's because you can't fucking breathe and you're breathing in formaldehyde, and maybe you brought in some sort of bacteria that you picked up inadvertently from just touching your mask all the time, right? You know, and just, right? I can only imagine how gross these masks can really get. And people wear them with pride. So many people wear them with pride, and they try to make them like they're fashionable. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Can you notice? Wait, it's not about masks. It's not about viruses. It's certainly not about your health. In other words, this doctor, right? Here, let's go back. Okay? Who is responsible for this crime? The ones who want to enforce it? Well, we know who that is, Dr. God. The ones who let it happen and play along? Or the ones who don't prevent it? It's not about masks. It's not about viruses. It's certainly not about your health. It's about how much more I am not participating. I am not afraid. You can notice they are already taking out air to breathe. You can notice they are already taking our air to breathe. They're making it illegal to breathe air. I went through that with Andre. Don't breathe! Remember? Don't breathe! Go into my videos, don't breathe! Well, that was in 2013. Right? Now we're in 2021, and they made that don't breathe applicable to everybody in the freaking province, basically. You take off that mask and you try and breathe, and what do you got? You got a bunch of crazy fucking cops coming after you, throwing you down to the fucking ground and arresting you. And then freaking strip searching you, and God knows what else they're doing to these individuals when they've been like freaking attacked, basically, for wanting to breathe. Basically, for wanting to breathe, people. Okay? Like, who does that? The imperative of the hour is personal responsibility. We are responsible for what we think, not the media. We are responsible for what we do, not our superiors. Dr. God, Bonnie, we are responsible for our health, not the World Health Organization. And we are responsible for what happens in our country, not the government. Okay? So now I'm going to read something that just some subscriber on YouTube posted on somebody's, or maybe it was BitChute, I don't know. They called themselves Graystar 777. Okay, attention. If I get vaccinated, treatment, 1, can I stop wearing the mask? No, you cannot. Dr. God will tell you that. You get a vaccination, you still have to wear the mask. Can they reopen restaurants and everyone work normally? No. This is right across the board. Dr. God will tell you, you still can't open up your restaurant. You can't have your banquets. You can't have your funerals. You can't, no, don't breathe! Will I be resistant to COVID? Well, we already know that they're just monitoring it. You maybe might get some kind of benefit for a month or 2, maybe 4, if you're lucky, right? But we've got the variants coming in up the ranks, where as of today, we've got Dr. God now reporting on two statistics when it relates to death. We got the standard COVID with over 1,200 or 1,300 people who have already died from that, with 4 of them in the last 4 days, with 4 dying since, I guess, yesterday, and of which 2 of them came from the variant. So now she's reporting on your standard COVID in terms of numbers of death, but she's also bringing in a new number with the variant deaths to scare you even more. As she's saying that we're monitoring it and it's very worrisome and the numbers are increasing. But go get your vaccine. Even though you can't stop wearing your masks, even though I just read what I read to you, right? You can't open up your business. You can't have a banquet for a wedding. You can't have a decent funeral. You can't exhume your loved one to get an independent autopsy to find out why they really died, right? You can't witness how your loved one is being treated in the hospital or in the old folks' home, because by them silencing with what happened to Uncle John, just guaranteed that they could do it to another 83,000 within the healthcare system. And now they're going into the old folks, now they're going into the private homes, and they're going to start flushing the old people out of their private homes. It won't be, they only need 10%. So if they inoculate 100,000, if they inoculate 100,000 old 80-year-olds, we'll just 80-year-olds, right? We'll say between 70 and 90 years old in their private homes. If they inoculate 100,000 between 70 years old and 90-year-old in their private homes, and they flush out 10% people, all they need, go into my videos, I've told you this, all they need is 10% of those ones for them to put their fingers into the cookie jar and make billions and billions and billions of dollars off of those deaths as they come about because of what is happening now. They can only take so many from the old folks' homes. Because if they take too many, that's when people really will start to fight back. Okay? I said this in my videos back in the day with Uncle John. But they've been targeting old people in their homes for a long time, because I seen that when I used to go visit Uncle John. There was a lot of old people locked up in that temporary care ward who were just not allowed to go home because some foreign immigrant worker on a visa who could barely speak English said so. And those individuals, those old people, man or woman, were forced to sell their homes, pay for their stay at the temporary care ward, and then they were going to have to pay for their stay at the care facility to which those workers were going to send that old person to. Now they're just completely locked up under lock and key, and nobody can see them. And because they want to keep the system going, that manufactured line of making money off of the backs of old people and their pension plans, okay, and laundering that money into the healthcare system to boost up that part of the union, right? They're going now into private homes, people, and they're targeting the old people there. So if they inoculate 100,000 old people in their private homes and 10,000 kick off, that's all they need. That's all they need to make a profit, because it's a big, big profit. And because we've got the variants coming in, now they have a reason to go into the old folks' homes and start the cycle all over again with old people dying off like flies because of the fucking variant. As people are being told to continue to wear their masks, get their vaccinations, keep their businesses closed, you still won't be able to see your loved ones. It's going to take at least a year. That's basically what Dr. God was saying today. Oh yeah, we're working on it. We're going to try and do this and we're going to try and do this. But at the end of the day, the last sentence, the last few words that she said, and I don't know if I should find it because this video is too long already as it is, but a year. Don't expect anything to happen for a year, especially with the variants coming in now. And if you do get to go see your loved one, you have to have the fucking Mars gear on. You gotta have the masks and, the rubber gloves, because God forbid, if you go touch grandma, they don't want you touching grandma because, first of all, grandma might be like Shmei, have a super bug on her skin, for the simple fact that grandma's laying there looking kind of alive, but really grandma's actually dead, just being embalmed made to be look alive. She's just not responding because she's so sick from their virus. And that's for the lucky ones that can get in and visit grandma. I'm just using that as an excuse. Not an excuse, as an example. As an example. They're the ones who use it as an excuse. Right? Will I be resistant to COVID? This is after you get the vaccine. Maybe, but we don't know exactly. It probably won't stop you getting it. I already walked you through it. At least I won't be contagious to others anymore. No, you can still pass it on. Possibly. Nobody knows. I already walked you through that. If we vaccinate all children, will school resume normally? No. Because they're just playing games, right? If I am vaccinated, can I stop social distancing? No. Everybody knows you can't socialize, right? We got Dr. God saying nothing's going to change anytime soon until everybody's vaccinated. I'm just waiting to go. Like, what are they going to do? Like, how are they going to kill me, people? Like, literally, how are they going to get rid of me? What do they got in store for me? Because I'm not taking their analog. I'm not. Well, how are they going to attack me, people? Okay? And people like me. If I am vaccinated, can I stop disinfecting my hands? No. Because, again, you're bringing in chemicals into your body, right? The skin is very porous. Anything you put your hand into absorbs into your body. Okay? So if you're using these hand sanitizers, to which some of them have been proven to be very toxic, especially to children, right? That's another whammy that can make you sick. If I vaccinate myself and my grandparents, can we hug each other, say goodbye before they die? No. Dr. God said today, we're working on trying to get families to come in to be able to see their loved ones while in hospital or in these care homes, but they're just working on it. And at the end of her fucking sentence, she made sure to point out that it's probably not going to happen for the year in terms of back to normal. But there's not going to be no back to normal because now they're chasing the variant, to which she documented today on her terms with no fact checks that 2 people have died from the variant so far. So she's got 2 running numbers now. Okay, she's got the large number with the COVID with absolutely no fact checks, and now she's got the variants coming in with those deaths with no fact checks. as she's basically killing off people's, what is that called? Hippocampus gland cell. Little, it's like, it looks like a little something like that. It's inside your brain in here. It only takes 3 minutes for it to start to die with lack of oxygen. Okay? Will the vaccinated be able to gather the community closer? No. She's not going to remove none of those binary individuals are going to remove restrictions for people to be able to socialize as if we were on planet Earth, okay? We're on a prison planet, okay? Outside of what Alex Jones would say, this is a prison planet that we're on now, okay? What is the real benefit of vaccination? The virus may not kill you. That's the only thing. They don't know yet what the benefit is. It hasn't even been turned into a vaccination yet because it's really not a vaccine. It's an analog. Are you sure it won't kill me? No. Everybody knows that, right? If statistically the virus didn't kill me anyway, why would I get vaccinated? To protect others, right? So in other words, most people that get this so-called virus bounce back. It's namely the old people who are dying from complications related to this so-called virus as the flu season and the colds and all that kind of stuff completely disappeared off the planet of the Earth because it's not the planet of the Earth anymore. It's the planet of the fucking apes here, okay? And the apes are fucking laughing at us, okay? So, if I get vaccinated, the others are 100% sure I'm not infecting them? No, that's why you're going to be required to continue wearing the mask. You can't open your businesses. You can't have normal funerals. Nothing's changed. You get vaccinated, nothing will change. They will make sure that nothing changed because they've already documented the 2 deaths as of today that resulted from variants that they're so-called concerned about, which has no analog to protect you from. They're just setting the stage so that in 6 to 7 months from now, they can come around and say, okay, you've had 2 vaccines. You've had 2 shots. Now we're coming in with 2 more because, it's mutated. Because it's all chemistry, people. It's just chemistry. They're just tweaking the chemistry. They're just creating a nation of junkies. In mind and in physiological. Right? As they're destroying body parts, including the brain. With no accountability like they did with Amari. Absolutely no accountability. Is there liability if I get seriously injured or die? No. Right? There is no liability for Amari. Right? It was too easy just to point the finger at Shimei. But I have her medical records. They purposely gave her morphine for 2 fucking days and sent her home while she was in labor. They had her on labor for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. And then all of a sudden, the baby's heartbeat dropped and it wouldn't come back up. So that's when they decided to do a C-section. But it was too late. The damage was already done. And then they covered it up with their bullshit, finger pointing, and lies. So, is it true that the shot does not give immunity? Does not eliminate the virus? It does not. Because Dr. God herself will say that at best you might get 4 months of protection, and even then they're gambling with it based on what the UK has been doing and Israel, as if that's world science. Does not prevent deaths, does not guarantee you won't get it, does not prevent you from getting COVID, does not stop you passing it on, does not eliminate the need for travel bans, does not eliminate the need for business closures, does not eliminate the need for lockdowns, does not eliminate the need for masking. So, why the hell am I getting vaccinated? To keep running the pharmaceutical business, to help bring in the Great Reset, something more nefarious, end the lockdowns and restrictions now. Those were somebody else's words. They weren't mine. I just wanted to bring them into my video because, you know, you can't stress it enough that we're being lied to, okay? And we're being set up for murder, okay? Some of us, right? Well, actually, all of us, really. And, what do you call it? I'm missing money here. Right? If I take the vaccine and I die, it becomes murder. If I take the vaccine and I don't die, in my opinion, it becomes attempted murder. And if I don't die, I will come after them for attempted murder because I'm already feeling like fucking shit. Okay? I've been stung by 14, 15, 16 hornets at one time. Okay? And what happens to me is if I get stung again, that's it. I'm probably toast. I have an serious allergic reaction because it's already been happened to me with 15 hornet stings at one time. Every part of my body went into something and I was itchy from head to toe, everywhere. Every part of my body was itchy. And when that happened, I phoned up, you know, whoever, and they said, don't ever have that happen again. Because if you do, you probably won't make it. Okay? So if they want to knock me up with something that I don't even agree with, and if I survive people, but they're going to give me a fucking brain concussion because of that shit, which I've already got brain fog with this pressure and ringing in my ears and pressure in the eyes and pressure in the head, and they want to amplify that shit with an experiment and then say that they're not trying to injure me. Oh yeah, okay. They're gonna have to kill me to silence me. The only thing is nobody's gonna stand up for my murder. Right? Just like nobody's standing up for anybody else being murdered around here. Because most of them haven't even figured it out yet. They're being gullible, right? For whatever reason, when their brains aren't being freaking permanently damaged for life, right? Due to lack of oxygen, basically. That's it. Okay, it doesn't take much to kill the brain, okay? Just think of anti-Chimay. And once they kill off the brain, they don't really give a fuck, okay? It's the bodies that they want. It's the organs that they want, right? Okay? That's what Chimay taught us. That's what Sierra basically taught us. Okay, Uncle John, they just wanted his money. All right, I'm sure they did something morbid with his body too, but the motivation for Uncle John was his money. Just like it is today, money, with all these old people dying off like flies. Now, with them vaccinating old people, but they still got outbreak here, outbreak there, people dying over here, people dying over there, and now they've got a new variant to keep everybody on that lockdown list, continuing to wear masks, depriving themselves of freaking oxygen, something that God provided through our plants, right? So I'm going to leave it on this. I'm not even going to give that Dr. God any attention today, outside of what they reported with 4 deaths, 2 of them new variants, with absolutely zero ability to fact check anything that binary individual has to say, right along with her binary partners in governance.